Hello, this is Soiledplant. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm not quite sure what to title it, but I'm basically going to be doing all of my normal maintenance and normal sort of scheduled cleaning and whatever on the plants in this corner. I try to hit every section of my house in little increments so it's not overwhelming. So I basically wanted to show you what I do when I go through and sort of take care of the plants in this corner. The first thing I want to mention is right before filming this video, I went to check on everything just to make sure everything was okay, and my humidifier, my Levoit humidifier, was dripping everywhere, and I had just put a new tank of water on it last night, so I'm not sure how long it's been dripping for, but I did completely remove that from the shelf before filming. I've got it in my kitchen, and hopefully I can figure out why it was leaking. It wasn't misaligned or anything, so I'm gonna do a little troubleshooting and see what that's about. But in the meantime, it's mostly about the plants anyway. First thing I do when I do like my full-on maintenance, not just watering, is I go through with my alcohol solution and a brush, and I also have a microfiber cloth, and I will clean the leaves of the plants that generally get really, really dusty. So I've got a few plants like the Skindapsis up here. I don't really do a full treatment on. I will just wipe it with the cloth. But for plants like my bird of paradise, I will actually go through, spray each leaf and clean it up and then wipe it with a cloth. That's mainly because I've gotten spider mites on this plant before, and it's sort of a preventative / cleaning method, whereas some of these other plants don't really get those type of pests, so I will just wipe it with a cloth. So I will take this nice big leaf here in front and just give it a nice little dousing there. And then I'll start on one side and get all in there. And then I'll spray the back side and do the same thing. And now that I'm done with that leaf, I basically take the microfiber cloth, and I do that just so that the dust and everything is removed from the leaf. Removing dust from your leaves helps with photosynthesis. A leaf can't take energy from the sun if it doesn't see the sun because there's dust particles in the way. So basically, if you can see the dust, that probably means like 20 to 30% of the leaf is being covered. So imagine your car having 20 or 30% less power. You know, it's going to be sluggish, it's not going to move as fast, and the plants won't grow as fast. It's the same type of thing. That is a hard word to say really fast. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. The other thing you don't want to forget is to go up and down the stalks as well. They can get really dusty and you wouldn't even notice. So I just kind of fold this into a fourth and just kind of go up and down. As far as updates on this bird of paradise, she's doing okay. She's only produced one new leaf this season for me so far. I'm hoping the summertime will bring a few more, but the one that I'm getting, of course, it has already ripped. When it started unfurling, it ripped already. That's just a side effect of owning the bird of paradise, is just they're not going to be perfect. Every single leaf I have is slit. It's not, you know, a full-on leaf. I think I actually do have one leaf that's all intact without any slits in it, and it is this one up here, this big honking one that's leaning against my window, and I am afraid to touch it because I know as soon as I touch it, it's going to crack and break, because that's just what happens to me. The next thing I do for my bird of paradise is I spray it with my Captain Jacks. This is to prevent spider mites, because like I said, I've gotten spider mites on this plant a handful of times before. They're fairly prone to it, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that. I do spray it with Captain Jacks, like I try to monthly, at least once a quarter, just in case. But I'm about 5'3", so if that gives you any indication on how tall this is, I approximate it to be about 6 feet tall. It'll be fun to move. Let's put it that way. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear off each shelf individually and clean the shelf itself, check the plant, give it a thorough spraying of Captain Jacks, and then put it back. But usually while I'm doing this process, I will have a bucket with me that is partially for watering and also just to catch anything that's like drippy or has water left in the tray, things like that, just so I don't have to worry about spilling it everywhere. I will just dump it into this. This is my sort of hack for doing watering for a large collection, is I bring a bucket around with me everywhere, and then I'll have it sitting on a flat surface, and then I will hold the plant and water it until it runs through. wait for it to sort of get drippy, and then put it back in the drip tray and put it back. That way I don't have to take everything to the sink every time, because that would be insane and just so tedious. So I got everything off. I'm just gonna wipe it down with that same microfiber towel now that I'm done wiping down the bird of paradise. And this one I'm actually taking the glass off because I had that humidifier leak everywhere. So I'm trying to make sure there's no water stuck underneath the glass and having it pin up against the shelving. Because the shelving itself, this one that I have, is actually metal, and metal can corrode if there's water there. And it's just probably not good to have sitting water really anywhere in your house. So I'm trying to make sure I'm kind of cleaning this as I go. I'm also cleaning the sides of the shelving unit because they can get kind of dusty over time. One thing I've noticed from having two different string of hearts plants over here is they will drop their little flowers or spent leaves, what have you. They have a lot of little droppings. Every single shelf underneath those string of hearts will have little entrails of plant matter on them, so that's also why I have the bucket, so I can just kind of sweep it straight into there. So luckily all of these plants have been watered already, so I just need to treat them with Captain Jack's today, but normally I would water them and then treat them. So this is one of my newer Hoyas. I'm gonna forget the name of it. It's a Hoya Kentii variegata. Is it Kentii? Wayetii? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking, but I will put the name below. So far it's done okay. It's starting to shoot out little tiny baby leaves, but not too many. The thing that I've learned with Hoyas is that the first year you have them, they don't grow hardly at all, and then after that it blows up. Oh, here we go. It says on the little sticker, it's a Hoya Kentiana variegata. There we go. Hoya Kentiana variegata. And a prime example of a Hoya blowing up, that is my Carnosa Crimson Queen, which is this one right here. When I first got this about 2 years ago, it was just the top portion, and it had like a little shoot that was maybe, you know, this long, and now this all happened in the last probably year. This one's doing pretty well. I had 2 of these, and the other one totally kicked the bucket, was not happy with me. Everything I tried, it was like, nope, not good enough, but this one is doing really, really well. I'm happy with it. It's the oldest Hoya I have, and the one good thing about having a nice long strand here is I can just kind of get it in the bucket and then spray all around it and not have to worry about getting the spray all over the house. And then what I do for this one, because it's so long, I actually wrap it around like that and almost imagine that it's like a full plant like this. Put it in this little drip tray, and then I set it down just like that. And the last one I have on my shelf is the last Aglianema I have. Well, I shouldn't say last. I have some that are propagating, but this is my Aglianema Sparkling Sarah. It had kind of a rough winter. It lost a lot of leaves, but it's doing okay and it's getting better. It's one of the few plants I have that are like pink, and I kind of love it for that because I don't have a ton of pink plants, and I kind of like how whisper pink this is. It's just like blushing pink. I might be aging myself here, but if anyone has seen Steel Magnolias, where Shelby's wedding are the colors blush and bashful, and they're basically 2 different colors of pink. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. But anyway, every time I think of like a little baby pink like that, I think it's blush and bashful. But yeah, it's a classic, you guys. If you are interested in Sally Field giving the performance of a lifetime and Julia Roberts, Dolly Parton's in it, Steel Magnolias, go watch it. It's amazing. Classic movie. Get the other side. I'm dripping dirt on myself. That's the side effect of tipping a plant sideways, as you get soil everywhere. That one I've got in this nice blue cover pot and then a little drip tray underneath. I will put that back on the shelf. Next shelf up, let's unload. I have one exception to the moving plants rule, and that is I do not move string of hearts. It's mainly because their little tendrils are so long and so delicate that I don't want to risk tangling them or getting them stuck on things or ripping. So I will actually clean around it and lift it up and kind of like clean underneath. These are the little flowers that the string of hearts will drop. And so I just pick those up and put them in the bucket. The first one I'm going to clean and put back is this rubber plant. It is a superstar. I cut it right around Halloween, and I cut it right here. And so this section up here just grew since October. So what is that, like 6 months, something like that? It is so happy. The bad part is I bought it so that it would not truncate, it would split off. And it did technically split off. This is a split off point, but it is so inky dinky and it has grown not at all. So not so happy about that, but it is just growing like a big old superstar. Look at the variegation on that leaf on top. Just, oh, she's so pretty. How is she this pretty? Impossible. This is one of the plants that does get very dusty. It's got nice thick leaves and there's a lot of variegation on it. So it's one of those that you definitely want to clean. So I'm just going to do that quick with my alcohol and water and my brush. The good thing about these leaves is that they're nice and flat, so you don't have to get in too many grooves. I don't think I mentioned what this is, but this is actually a Ficus tunicki. It's a version of the rubber plant, just standard, you know, rubber plant. This one is definitely too tall for this shelving unit, and I don't have a better place for it, and it seems so happy in this southern window, so happy that I don't want to move it. And so what it's doing is, one of the reasons why it's angling like this is because that's where it can grow. So I want to show you what I do. Get this. So this is the plant, right? Plant's all wonky, crooked. I actually have to feed it through this opening. Oh gosh. I feed it through and I try to push it so that as much of the plant is out as possible so that it doesn't encourage it to lean even more. But like, this is not a long-term solution, I realize, but unfortunately that is the only solution I have. That is why it looks like that. While I'm on the Ficus tunicki, this is actually the top cutting I took. It has not produced a new leaf yet, but that's okay. It's getting settled. It's, you know, figuring itself out. This plant also took about 3 months-ish just to grow roots, and then I planted it. So all of those things are really stressful. So I'm not discouraged that it hasn't grown yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll start growing soon enough. It'll put out a little dinky leaf and then it'll blow up and make big ol' honkin' beautiful leaves like this. Like the variegation on these leaves, oh my gosh. What gorgeous leaves. I will say with the tunicki, it didn't grow for me right away. And honestly, as soon as I put it in the south-facing window, it's just been loving life. It can take a little bit of direct sun, not too much, a little bit, but I have a big tree outside my window, so that helps, you know, scatter the light a little bit. And definitely, if you've got one of these, or I'd say probably any rubber plant, south-facing window is the way to go, if you can help it. If you can help it, south-facing window. And the last one on that shelf that I have is my Hoyapuba Calyx. I put this on a hoop a little bit ago, a little trellis, because it was getting all gangly and all over the place, and I had it held up with chopsticks, which is not the cutest thing in the world, but it worked in a pinch. And so when I bought this, I was like, excellent. Now, hopefully, it'll encourage even more growth and it'll grow kind of all beautiful and trellisy. But this is my Prubacalyx Splash. You can tell it's a splash because all the new growth comes in green, not purple, which is so sad. I'd love it if it came in purple. And I did lose a little leaf, so that's what these days are for, is to check them out, see if they're looking okay, if they're getting spotty, if you're seeing funguses, if you're seeing bugs. You know, this is the time to check for them, to make sure everything's healthy. You're looking at the aeration of the soil, how's it doing, you know, any sort of extra plant matter that's in the bottom that shouldn't be there, you can chuck it away. All those things, you're just looking at it and like, this is what the leaves look like, a little Prubacalyx. And then I have a few of these that are like really minty looking, really almost like ghostish. Because you know, like you have that Hoya ghost, whatever. Like this is a normal leaf. I'm getting a few leaves that are like this ghosty shade. So like, that's kind of exciting. I don't know if I can encourage that, but it's one particular strand of this that almost all of them are these little like ghosty mint colors. And like they're a little more ghosty on the bottom. So not quite sure what that's about. Wonder if I can encourage it by propagating it and all of that, but it's not quite long enough for me to want to propagate it quite yet. I've had this Prubacalyx for about a year, I want to say. This was the first Hoya I bought since I moved here. So it's less than a year and a half. I know that. I just don't know if it's like 9 months, a year, or something like that. You know how I said earlier that Hoya, you have them for a year and then the next year they blow up? This one blew up the first time I got it. And it was doing really well. So I don't know if it was a more established plant that I bought. I'm not sure. Either way, That is the Prubacalyx Splash. Lastly, we have this top shelf up here, so I will pull those down. I have another string of hearts that is right here, this little string of hearts right here, and I'm going to do the same thing as my last one, where I'm basically just going to lift it and clean underneath it and kind of clean around it. Now I'm actually going to step on my couch to do so. One benefit to cleaning your shelves like this is that it is less likely to have bugs and pests and mold and all of those things that are horrible, because clean surfaces are less likely to be breeding grounds for bugs or bacteria, and also it just looks nice. Top shelf is clean. So now we'll check out the next plants. First one that I'm checking out is a Syngonium. It doesn't look like there's a ton of dead matter. It seems to be living and doing its best thing. So many new leaves. Look at this. Look at this leaf that's coming out, and it's all crooked because it's hitting the top of the shelf. It's starting to outgrow that shelf, but don't worry. I'll give it a new home soon. This is a Syngonium that I actually got from my parents. It was a cutting from one of their plants. So of course I love it and it's amazing. And this poor plant, I have neglected it so much. I forget to water it all the time. The little pot that it's in a nursery pot, it gets stuck in this outer pot all the time. So I never actually take it out and check on it. You know, I have to kind of feel for it. And sometimes I overwater it, sometimes I forget to water it. And it survives. Syngonium are the best. They're basically, you know, like a heartleaf philodendron or a pothos. They are so resilient, and even if they lose leaves, they grow leaves so fast. Oh, they're so amazing. So if you are a fan of like the leaf shape, the colors that they come in, I really like Syngoniums. But like, how many new leaves do I have growing on this plant right now? Okay, there's this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 new leaves on this plant that are growing right now. And it's just like amazing. I have no idea what kind of Syngonium it is. I will say that it has a very like dusty pink rose color. Some of these leaves, that is so interesting. I'm like getting a good gander at these leaves. And some of them, I don't know, this looks like it had a pest at some point, but I've been treating them like everything else. And so I think they're fine, but I don't know if you could see. Can I show? Can you see? Here, maybe you can see on this leaf. This leaf has it pretty bad. You see that like pattern in there? There's that pattern, you can see through it. That's literally see-through. You can see through the plant. So like on the front side, it looks like a normal leaf. And then when you turn it over, like what is that? I don't even know. If you know what that is, let me know. I would say it's bugs, but it seems so, like it's got a rhyme or reason to that pattern. You know, that is not by accident. That is not bugs attacking it. That seems like something with the plant itself. So yeah, but that's not on every leaf. There's certain leaves that don't have any of that. So, well, they all have it a little bit, I guess. Maybe it is a bug. Maybe it's got mosaic disease. I have no idea. But yeah, if you happen to know what that is, please let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to spray it with Captain Jack's and put it back onto the shelf. One thing I do have to do with this plant, as you can see from this angle, it definitely leans, and it leans towards the light no matter which way I angle it. So every couple of weeks to a month, I will give it a quarter turn just to make sure it's full all the way around. So that is what that is. And I will put it back, and I'll put it with this side facing the window. The next plant I'm going to talk about, Monstera adansonii. These ones are also really prone to spider mites, so I check them a lot. You can usually see, if they get them, you can usually see webbing in the actual holes that they have. So you want to check them all the time. These are cuttings from my main Monstera adansonii. I had 2 different pots of cuttings. The other one I accidentally dropped and everything went everywhere. And honestly, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because all the roots were rotten and it would have died anyway. You know, rest in peace to the pot, but the plant itself was not going to grow. So it's all fine and dandy. But this is the other plant, and only about, if you can see in there, not too many of these have sprouted. So I have a strong suspicion that there's some root rot happening with this one too. So this one is doing okay. Eventually I'll give this away as, you know, a gift to a friend, something like that. So I'm just going to keep spraying this and all that prevention goodness. In my last video, I was actually asked what the active ingredient is. The active ingredient is spinosad. both A and D. I'm not sure what ratio, but it said that there's both in there. So if you're okay with using spinosad as an active ingredient, that's what's in it. Set that up there. And the last one on this shelf, or at least I should say the last one in this little corner, is my Skindapsis, Pictus, Aureus. This one, what I do when I go through is I look for bugs, I look for general health and well-being of the plant. I test the soil. This one I don't water super often because honestly it doesn't need it. So a lot of times when I'm doing my normal routine of watering things, this one I'll skip depending on its water situation. So whenever I do a checkup like this, I just test the soil to see if it needs it. It does not. So Skindapsis have the same thing as pothos and heartleaf philodendrons, where when they grow, they have little sheaths, and the sheaths themselves will kind of dry up on the plant itself. Now you can leave those alone. I think it's a combination for me of it just not being super cute and it being a little pocket to harbor pests. So whenever I see them, I will just pick them off. I miss them constantly, as in like I'll go through the plant and think I got them all and I didn't. You know, as long as whenever I take them down and look at them and inspect them. But if you want to leave them on, go ahead and leave them on. The risk is low. It's mostly an aesthetic thing for me, but I use the bug thing as a justification as well. This plant is doing pretty well. This is the only Skindapsis I have, and that's not for lack of trying. I love Syngonium, but this is the only variety I ever see, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's super cute. I like it a lot. I kind of want the ones that are basically the same thing, but the leaves are gigantic. I also like the satin ones where they're less speckly. I don't know, they're all very similar. I do really, really like this one, and I like having a Skindapsis. They're just kind of amazing. If I ever see any more in the future, I will definitely get one. And like everything else, I spray it down with my Captain Jacks. After I'm done kind of doing all of this, what I'll do is I'll just like wash my hands and stuff just to make sure that I'm not consuming it. Then I shove all of the little hanging tendrils just up in this area, partially so that it gets more sun because it's facing closer to the window, but also that way it's not like a little tangling temptation for the kitties. So that's everything I do to maintain each section of my plants. I kind of just pick a section that seems kind of all together, and then I do one of these treatments where I try to clean the area up, water it if necessary, spray it with pest control, clean if necessary, you know, just kind of gauging it. I try to do a thorough cleaning like once a quarter at a minimum. If I were better about it, I'd probably do it once a month. But once a quarter is fine, or at least it hasn't done terrible things to my plants. But that does it for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I will catch you next time. Bye!